Come and take a class at the Academy.
Alright everybody, welcome to the second episode of Alter Academy. I am, as always, your host JBaum, and today we have with us another special guest, one of the pioneers of the Kiwi bird deck, piloting it to the LCQ Championship, earning him a spot at the European Continentals. Harlan Sweete, welcome, and how are you doing today, buddy?
Thank you very much. That was a lovely intro as well. I'm doing very good, thanks. Yourself?
I'm great. Just having a nice early morning here. And then, I guess, what are your thoughts on the early set 7 meta here?
Yeah, so I think if you're not a Sapphire enjoyer, this set you're going to just complain about, and I completely understand that. But I think we do have quite a wide and interesting meta. Yeah, it will probably be like 3 different Sapphire Sapphire Steel decks, 3 different Ruby Sapphire decks, and then a bunch of decks that try and counter the meta. That probably will be how it lands, unless we're like a lot of people, test high levels have missed something like there's a really broken green card or something. But I think I can predict that's what the meta is going to be like. Me as a Sapphire Steel player, of course, very much enjoying it. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good meta.
Perfect. Okay, I guess let's just move straight into it. Could you tell me about your current list you've submitted for today's episode?
Yeah, so this is sort of what I would go in as like a week 1 build. We're trying out a few new things in here. Of course, if anyone knows Kiwi from the last set, we were only using Doc, and we would just play the strong curve. We'd play character 1, 2, and 3, and then Doc was like our only card draw. But in this one, of course, the new Bell card got announced. And it's too powerful for you to not play as a Sapphire deck, or at least the Sapphire Steel deck. Maybe a Ruby Sapphire wouldn't. So we have to play her, basically. She's that powerful. She can be your turn 1 Cinderella. She can just be insane board pressure. She's awesome. So we have to include the items again, which means that we have to kind of get a bit more value out of the items than we would have just got, say, we're going for that high roll of playing Bell on turn 1, so she can sing Let the Storm Rage on, or Strength for Raging Fire, or just be a good board presence. But we want a bit more power out of those items, so we start using the Hiram. And we've tested the big Tamatar as well, the new one that I think is Happy as a Clam, it's called. The 6-cost one. It's not in this current list, but I think that one is a really powerful card. And I think as the meta goes on, that might make its way into the list. But for now, what's on the screen, I think, is very strong into just a general wide room. It has a very good game plan. It can sort of fight and take on anything. It has answers to a lot of things in there. And then people might notice there's Benja in there as well now. Like, that's a card that, let's be honest, no one's really played that for like the past 3 sets, have they?
Yeah.
There's been no real reason to play Benja, and it's not like items aren't in the meta, they are, but now with the Sapphire Coil, and I think a lot of people are going to be leaning in on decks that use the Sapphire Coil. He definitely needs to be there week 1.
Yeah, as a Ruby Sapphire enjoyer myself, I have always disliked when people play Benja, because it doesn't even need to break a big item. It just, if it stops like a popsicle and you can't Flavershun to get some value, even that has a lot of value since you're going for speed, and then I just can't get time to ever get Flavershun value.
And sometimes you just play it naturally. Like if they go Popsicle, Tippo, you go, well, in testing, a lot of people have been playing the Sapphire Coil on turn 2, because you can instantly answer a Smee or whatever the next turn. But if they go Tippo, Porp, Tippo, and you just playing Benja because you're just playing your curve, that's your 3-drop. Yeah. As you say, you could cut off a Hiram and you didn't even notice it, or maybe you plan to do that. So yeah, he's just pretty good. He creates a different dynamic, I think, in the entire metagame, knowing that now your items aren't safe. There's a 3-cost character. But of course, he's not great as well. He can be brawled easily on the snapback. In that interaction, I still think we're up. If we were to break something like a Sapphire Coil or a Quill, or maybe a Maurice's Workshop that we've seen, if you were to play it, break it, and then they pay 3 to pay the brawl on it, you both have spent 3 ink, but you should be up because you took out one of their items on that sort of engagement.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's just kind of necessary right now with Sapphire Coil and Bell being the 2 biggest hyped cards in the game.
Agreed. Okay, I guess let's move into it and go straight into some simulations here on altering our hand. So on this first game, let's pretend we are doing a blind alter and we're on the play.
Yeah. So like what we're kind of looking for is we keeping that set 6 vibe of Kiwi. We really want a strong curve. But of course, we now have this Bell high roll that we might go for sometimes. This hand, that we have no components of the Bell high roll. We do not have a Bell or a Port. So we kind of just want to look for that curve here. And it's still important that we get a 1-drop. If we're on the play, I think it's less important because our 2-drop will be dry by the time their 1-drop is dry. So you can fight back. So missing the 1-drop on turn on the play, I don't think it's as bad. But with this hand, yeah, it'd be nice to keep some of these components, but really I would just keep a Smear, I think, and just dig for a better maybe that 1-drop or something like that. And you could look at the okay, we have a 3-drop and a 4-drop and a 5-drop. We generally have a curve beyond the 1-drop, but the way the deck's sort of designed is there's a bunch of 3-drops in this deck.
Exactly.
There's a bunch of 4-drops. There's Cogs is in there at any point you need him. You could, if you are not that much of a risky mulligan, I would maybe keep the Alice and the Pluto. But into blind, there are a lot of matchups now where Alice Pluto just isn't doing that much work.
Right.
So it's that thing of I'm not a green steel player, but like I'm pretty sure green steel players go for Diablo shift line almost every game.
Oh yeah.
So we're kind of in the same boat as them now. We have this high roll that if we get it on turn 1, the tempo swing is so big that we might as well go quite hard on finding it. And it's the same thing as Diablo shift line. If we have that pop school down, it would be the most optimal thing to pop it and play the Bell the following turn, the same turn, sorry. But we also have that item set up now, and we can, anytime we draw a Bell, we can just play her out. If our turn 2 is play Smee and pop a pop school to play a Bell at the same time, we've gone 2-3-3s wide on turn 2. That's still a really huge turn.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
okay.
I think we use the strength for the mulligan, to look for the high roll.
So here we got kind of an interesting draw where the Mulan, I think, is going to help us here as well.
Yeah, I think if it's blind, we just go for inking doubles here. Like, we're never going to get to the point of playing double mana,
right?
Unless we're very, very lucky. So yeah, we'd ink one of the manas. We could just risk it and just set up the popsicle. But I think, just setting a character down, in a sense, progressing your board and getting that cycle as well, because the deck has an ability to we don't go into top deck mode that much, but we can do. And now that we've included all these songs and all these items, we can be at a point where I just need to top deck a character. Oh, it's a pop into a let the storm rage on, and it's just gonna really. So any chance we have to sort of start thinning the deck and progressing is pretty good. So that's why we've gone for the Mulan. There is also a Simba as well that people can use, but yeah, I think this would be an easy mana. Play the Mulan down, tidy up the hand a little bit. Our turn 3 might be a Porpsicle and another 2-drops, because that means our turn 4 can be the Hiram and we get the payoff from it. I don't think it's a terrible hand.
No, I think you can, especially with this one being on the play, I think kind of sways it in your favor. All right, let's go to on the draw blind.
Yeah, I think that is probably the worst hand I've ever seen.
All threes.
I mean, the deck does play a lot of 3s. In set 6, we played a lot of 5s, and you'd have 1 out of 50 games where your entire hand would just all be 5-drops. And right here, you can still have 1 out of so many games where your whole hand's just going to be a bunch of 3-drops. Not that much interesting for listeners to watch. I think I would just probably ship it all back. You really want to look for some sort of line there.
Yeah, and I do notice the uninkable count was very low, so you can pretty much feel safe doing this a lot of the time, especially when sending these 2 uninkables back.
I think it's about 14, and we've drawn 2 already. And of course, that Mulan as well can help you tidy up a little bit here. I mean, this hand I don't mind at all. I don't think it's the worst. As I say, if it's blind, we'd know by the turn 1 what we're playing against. But you've got doubles of cogs. We don't ramp with this deck, so playing both of them might be expensive. So we might want to keep 1 around. But you've got a Porpsicle into a Calhoun. And even if we miss that Bell turn 1, I think it's quite important for people to know that at any point you could just pop the Porpsicle and play the Bell out. Just if you needed to do that thing of, all right, they're going quite wide here, I need to sort of push the tempo back in my favor and go wide. Or you can wait to the Hiram. The matchup might be a bit slower and they maybe miss their 1 or 2 drop or whatever reason, and you've got it now set up for the Hiram, the same way you've always had with Sapphire decks. So yeah, I think on the play, this hand would be very good, but on the draw, it's still not bad. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I'd agree. Okay, let's move into a on the play versus Ruby Sapphire, which is probably going to be one of the most popular decks of this upcoming format.
Yeah, for this one, entirely what we're looking for is the Bell shift line is still good. I mean, you're getting a 3/3 down on turn one, which means it's going to be awkward for them to remove. Like, they can't use in certain decks, they can't use the Goofy. You're going to 1/1 what's it called? A Tala. And Maui, you're going to do a big chunk of damage to him. But when you've got here, you've got the Fortisphere, you haven't got the Bell, but you do have a Mulan. I tend to send most of it back. I'll keep the Fortisphere and the Mulan. Um, and what I would sort of look at doing as well, you could keep another Mulan. So the way that it could work is your turn one could be Mulan, of course, as long as if you don't get the bell, your turn one could be Mulan, and then your turn two can be a Force Fit and a Mulan. So you're sort of progressing the boards a little bit. You're getting characters down. You're thinning out the deck for cards you actually want to play. And yeah, I don't think that's the worst in the world. I'd say it's a bit more safer to be doing this because realistically, the best card for us to play on that turn two would be Smee.
Yeah.
But I don't think this is the worst either. I think, yeah, if I was feeling fairly conservative and I knew it was RB, I would just go for something like this.
All right, let's see what we get. Pretty good, I'd say. Although we're missing a 2-drop, so.
Yeah, I mean the 2-drop, but now what we can do is, we ink one of the bells, I guess. Well, we're actually going quite heavy on the bells. Yeah, play the Force Fit down, get the bell out, and then turn two. We draw one card. We're going to go one deeper. We might get that 2-drop, but if not, we can double Mulan, and Mulan is a May trigger as well, so you don't have to use the shuffle.
Yeah.
And then you got the Benja on 3. Hopefully, you maybe draw another item, so the higher end can start working off that. But in this build, if you're kind of a bit worried that you're not going to get a higher end draw, you've got the docks. There's 4 docks and there's 3 Hirams. So we can always do that thing that every dock deck does, where it's like, eventually I should draw a dock and and keep the gas going. But out of the gates, going 3 wide with a Bell and 2 Mulan into Benja is really quite strong. So yeah, I take that as quite a strong hand. In the Ruby Sapphire matchup, you want to end up just getting those manas down, and you'll be surprised at how much resources you can get of Hiram in this deck.
Yeah, and even if you go with the Bell double Mulan for the first 2 turns, they can't deal with a lot like a swarm that early. So you're going to get a lot of lore from those Bells and Mulans, even if they have some good answers, because they can pretty much just go 1 for 1 on your characters for the first couple turns.
Oh, sure. They'll maybe the TPO into a Mulan. The kind of game plan we've been enjoying is that if they TPO your Mulan, they're not going to TPO your Mr. Smee, which fairly actually is all right. And then if you use the Simba or the Mickey Mouse we used to use in set 6, it's like that's always a little Sisu target. So yeah, it's been quite good. I don't think it's a terrible hand.
Yeah, like this one. All right, let's do Ruby Sapphire, but on the draw this time.
Yeah, I think we are really gunning for that 1-drop. Just something to play on turn 1 that can start questing. So I think we'd have to send back the Doc for sure, John Silver. Most players will keep a Popsicle over a Fortisphere if you have the option between the two. I do as well. And that comes down to Popsicle is probably just sometimes a bit more useful. And if you need to pop it for whatever reason, it's free to pop. It doesn't cost anything. So those definitely go. The Hiram and the Strength. There is a debate if we just want to keep the Popsicle and the Calhoun. I think because we're in a fairly unfavored matchup, we're going to lose if we play it slowly. And Calhoun's not questing for much. So I think maybe even just send the Calhoun back. I think you kind of have to go for quite a good draw.
Yeah.
And you might not get your 2-drop. You might not get your 1-drop. But my view on that is you're just going to lose slower if you try and play it safe, especially on the draw versus such a powerful deck. I think you really have to go for like that Smee and that Bell on 1 or whatever, that 1-drop on turn 1.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. All right, let's see what we get here.
It's not the worst. So yeah, you could start. Hopefully you get your extra draw as well. You're going to be drawing 3 cards by the turn it hits turn 2, so you should probably have something else to play. Cogsworth's just like free ink and Ruby Sapphire matchups.
Right.
And then the Storm Rage on the like Tipo is not the worst in the world. So you'd have a really good spot here if you had a Mr. Smee in hand, because you would set up the Bell and then they'd set up their Tipo, you get your questing in, and then you can let the Storm Rage on the Tipo. So the Smee is free to keep questing, and then they have to answer it with a Maui. So yeah, I don't think that's the worst. It could definitely do with a bit more changing around.
Yeah,
But yeah, there's some decent parts to this hand.
yeah, definitely serviceable. Um, let's go ahead and go versus another deck that has been getting popular that I've seen. Purple Steel on the play.
Purple Steel, yes. So on the play of this deck, this is one where you, of course, having Bell sing Let the Storm Rage on, it's just like it's gonna probably be the thing that's makes you win on the spot. Like they might even just scoop. I've had that before.
Yeah.
If you've got Bell singing, like this is the same way that Cindy works. The thing that makes Bell even better is if you were to sing it and they had something ready to attack the Bell. Like she's a 3/3, so she's going to 1-for-1 it. Rather than Cindy, when she exerts, she's quite an easy target. You just take her out of a Calhoun, and you can sometimes be in a better spot than you were anyway because they did it
Yeah.
on a Diablo. So here, yeah, I think you would just keep the Calhoun because again, we are this sort of in this role now where we can be this high roll deck, and if we get the Bell turn one into Let the Storm Rage on, we're in a really good spot there. But also, trying to play it safe with this hand, like maybe you'd keep a Pete. That wouldn't be the worst in the world, but I think you just go for it. And as you see with one of those hands where it was all 3 drops, we're quite dense on things. So sending them back, we're probably going to get a copy back anyway. So it should be fine.
Yeah, I am noticing a trend that we're basically just wanting to mulligan, as you said before, similar to like Green Steel, where we just want our specific turn 1 and 2 to be the same every game, and so
Yes, yeah.
it's just like kind of aggressive mulliganing or altering for that.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, playing Amber Steel as well, and you don't aggressively look for that Cindy, but
yeah,
this is one of those interesting hands where, of course, we have the Bell, but we don't have the Porpsicle.
right.
So I think we still just establish that Mulan because that's all we can really do turn one. And as again, it's still a 3 drop, so you can do this curve out where you'd ink that mana, I think, first of all, because you're into purple deck. They're pretty good at getting rid of locations with Crab and Fox.
Yeah,
So yeah, we get the mana down, we get the Calhoun, and we can still play we probably get a better 3 drop by then. But we can play the Bell down, and she can sing the Strength of the Raging Fire to flip the tempo. So she's still a 3 drop as well. I think we'd prefer to play a Pete or an Alice maybe, but yeah, and then maybe we keep that Hiram around for that turn 5 where we Porpsicle and Hiram.
yep,
Because I think we're gonna have to. A lot of players are gonna have to learn when it's, as I say, you can pop the Porpsicle and play the Bell whenever you like, but sometimes it might be best to keep it for the Hiram draw, and maybe we're past the point where Bell would be that impactful on the board. But yeah, there's so much to learn with this set, so I'm quite excited for it.
yep, exactly. Okay, let's do Purple Steel on the draw now.
Yeah. Again, like you say, you've sort of cracked the deck design. We're looking very much for that strong opening, and it's finding a game plan after you've done it, really. Because if you don't get it, that's fine. You can find your own game plan. But if you get it, you pretty much win those games. Because the combo of Bell and the Porp is so hard, like we do want to sing like the Storm Rage on, but we can't keep them in hopes that we find the Bell and the Porpsicle. So really, I'm sending most of this back, just keeping that Calhoun, just to look for the best. Because again, there's some decent parts of this hand, but overall, we're kind of playing like Green Steel does. Yeah, and
We got like everything we sent back.
Yeah, which does happen.
Yeah.
I don't know how good the maths is on this simulator, but yeah, this could be kind of a rough hand actually on the draw versus them, especially if they do something like triple 1 drop,
Yeah.
just go wide on you, because you're not putting any pressure on that turn 1, which happens with every deck. We still have really good odds to get these things on turn 1, but this is how it is.
Yeah, missing a turn 1 character on the draw against a purple deck is quite scary because they can just free quest with the Chernobyls and the Brooms and
I
the
think
Diablos.
a lot of this, yeah, for sure. I think a lot of the deck designers would love to drop that alternative 1 drop like Mulan, but against matchups like this, if you haven't played anything turn 1, you're so behind. There are some matchups where I think you can just play a Porpsicle and pass, or pop the Bell if you have it. But this matchup, yeah, you have to be committing something to that board.
Yeah. What other deck would you like to do some simulations against? Is there anything that you've had some fun versus, or anything you really want to highlight color-wise?
I guess I don't really know the directions of the decks, but like Amber Steel, I guess is the one.
Yeah,
That's it's got no real cards this set, but it's probably quite popular. And again, a hand which is pretty not serviceable.
Yeah, and we'll say
there's
Ember
not-
Steel on the play is this one.
yeah, I mean, there's not much here we're looking for. Amber Steel again is a deck where it if you don't apply some pressure early on, it can run away a bit with it.
Yeah, I'll help you out here, and this is my
Yeah, oh yeah,
suggestion.
just send it all back. Just send it all back completely in this one. Yeah, and
A
but
lot better.
look, you've got Force Fear Bell and Let the Storm Rage on. I mean, we're only playing 3 in this deck. If you're very much going against decks that have like those purple 1-drops or Amber Steel, I think you go back to 4 Let the Storm Rage on for sure. But we're only 1 card more for the combo piece than what is it? Sorry, Amber Steel is with their Cindy Sing Let the Storm Rage on. We need the Popsicle as well. But we do it better. We have a 2-3 rather than a 1-2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure what Amber Steel can do to fight off this hand, because they're just going to put characters down, and you're just going to be able to Bell Storm and kind of dictate that tempo for the rest of the game, and they're just going to be never in the driver's seat to sing songs. So I think this one is an easy victory.
And you've got this better thing with this hand as well, that you're going to get to a point where there's Alice, and by that point they might not have got anything to stick on the board because you're just clearing it constantly.
Yeah.
And then it's going to say now everything has ward, so or like 2 characters are going to have ward as well, and they quest for 4 together or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's very good, and it really does dictate this hand how strong Bell Singing Let the Storm Rage on can be. For the deck, the same way that Cinderella can. So yeah, that's really why we go for those like the nuts, as they say in TCGs, don't they?
Yeah.
Like hands every game, because if you get it, it's great. If you don't, you can sort of still find a game plan with this deck.
Yeah, and it always feels bad when you're on the other end and you see your opponent alter 7 cards and then they just hit into the perfect 7.
It's that, or it's when they alter like 1 or 2 because you know they've already drawn it.
Oh,
You know?
yeah, the scariest thing in Lorcana is when a green steel player says alter 0.
Yes. Yeah, you know what they've got. They've got
Yeah.
everything. They've got Diablo Cove. Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah. Okay, let's do on the draw versus Amber Steel.
Yeah, I mean, in this one, we definitely want Bell. And another thing about that is, on the draw in the Amber, I've been playing a bit of Amber Steel recently, and you know, if they Cindy, their new Cindy, they get to sing Let the Storm Rage on first, which is quite brutal. If they Cindy their new Bell, of course, they can't do that. They would have to go 3 wide and sing Strength, which does feel rough, but always sometimes it's bad. You really murder your hand when you do that. So with this, yeah, we've got one of the combo pieces with the Popsicle. Again, I think it's way too risky to keep the Let the Storm Rage on and say we will find a Bell. So I think we get rid of that. And then, yeah, we'd have to dump the rest as well. Just really looking for that insane play on turn 1 with the Bell.
Yeah. All right, let's see how we do it. Ooh.
Sadly not, but especially
Not a good
being
one here.
no, especially being on the draw, the lack of 2-drop as well was quite rough.
Yeah.
Being on the draw, you get to draw 2 more cards here. You know, you'll ink the mana, you'll draw for turn. You play the Popsicle and you draw again. You know, your chances of actually getting to Bell on turn 1 is not that bad, even looking from your opening hand. You still have some agency in that and that ability to find her.
Yeah.
But of course, with this one, yeah, we're not finding that 2-drop. But of course, the hand before, what we sent away, looking at that was not worth keeping either. So it is, I think it is always best still to go for that like good Bell turn 1 play if you can.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, as we're wrapping up here, let's do one more blind on the play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so on the play, like I say, it's I'd say okay, I'll do it from the angle of like a bit more of a conservative player who
Okay.
you know might just want to just play their lines out. And yeah, you've easily got a very standard line here where I think in a world you could keep all of this. To be honest with you, if it's blind, of course, you don't really know what you're playing at against to begin with, but you could ink that Cogsworth, play the Smee, ink the Cogsworth, sorry, pass the turn, and then next turn ink what you need to, Cogsworth, Alice, Pluto, and then you've got Strength to sing, you've got Pete if it's a matchup where it requires Pete. You know, you've pretty much got everything you want there. So yeah, there's a world where you could just send back the dock if you like, but of course the dock is card draw, and the majority of your hand is inkable besides the Alice. So yeah, if you're a bit more of a conservative player and you don't want to go for that Bell every game, you could probably just send back the dock here and just see how it goes. Like, you're not going to get the Alice. Yeah, you just got inkable. But like I say, into a lot of these matchups, if you're into like Steel Song maybe, or Green Steel is a good example here. You could ink the Mukduk, pass the turn, get to the Smee, get to the Alice, get to the Pluto, ink that strength if you need to. Pete, Cogsworth, lock them out of the game because your board is so strong and it always resists. So the deck has a lot of, I think, getting used to and playing, because in set 6 we very much were like, just find a curve. That's all you had to do, was find a character to play on 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
But here, you know, we've got high rolls we can play with. We've got consistent lines we can play with. We've got loads of cards we can add to the deck as well. But yeah, I think you could easily just high roll someone with that. Sorry, just go over someone with the strength of ward, resist, and big questers here.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I liked seeing that conservative approach here, just to showcase the different options that you don't always have to go for that bell. So that's some very, very good feedback here.
Yeah, especially in this deck where we have designed it from the set 6 version. You know, you've still got Alice Pluto, and there still is a handful of matchups where it does work and it is really useful. I think like Crab and Maui is a bit of a rough one, but you know, it is still beatable and it's still a very powerful play to do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as we're wrapping up, thank you so much for showcasing your popularized Kiwi deck with us. I know you did so much testing, as I saw from the last set. I think like even the first iteration I saw, there was the poo having a think. So it's come a long. It's come a long way since those days. And if you guys want more content and want to see Harlan Sweete online, he's got a great Metafy. He's starting this lower tier that's going to have all of the profits go to charities. So he's also a great guy and helps his community with charitable events. So it's been a pleasure to have you, and I hope to see you and this deck do well in set 7 as you did in set 6.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, very excited for set 7 with this with Kiwi builds.
Awesome. Well, until next time, everybody, thank you all.